Hello, and welcome to my channel, Zenless Squad. Zenless Zone Zero is the newest franchise created by the titan of the gacha gaming industry, Hoyoverse. And if you're super excited to try it out like I am, here's the obligatory many tips and tricks for beginners and gacha veterans alike for Zenless Zone Zero. 2024 has been an incredible year for gacha gaming. We've had the usual Genshin Impact stuff, Honkai Star Rail popping off, and Wuthering Waves as well. Now we have Zenless Zone Zero. Zenless Zone Zero stands out from the other Hoyoverse titles because it's a bit less shy when it comes to fan service. And now we know what Hoyoverse has been spending their globs of cash on. Physics, physics, and more physics. Anyway, I participated in all 3 closed betas for Zenless Zone Zero, and in typical giant nerd fashion of mine, have been doing a ton of math and theory crafting as well. I learned a lot from my trials, tribulations, and televisions. So here are my top tips for you to get started with Zenless Zone Zero. Once you begin your adventure in Zenless Zone Zero, you'll naturally make the hardest decision of any video game, choosing between one of the 2 siblings, the adorable, heroic, and very stylish Belle, or Wise. After choosing Belle or Wise, you'll then need to build up your internet level, or basically your account level, or adventure rank for those OG Genshin players, as pretty much everything to power up your account is tied to your internet level. One major mistake I made in the early game in Closed Beta 3 was not prioritizing subquests. Now, this isn't going to be a tutorial on the day-night system, because honestly, that's pretty convoluted. But just know that at each point of the day, different events can happen in, well, frankly, every single region, and different side quests will be available to snag. Make sure to grab every single side quest that you can. You don't have to do them immediately, but just grab them and add them to your quest log. The reason for this is because you need a certain number of yellow balls in order to rank up your proxy status. Unlike Genshin Impact or Honkai Star Rail, instead of simply needing to complete a challenge mission, you also need to collect a bunch of survey data. So as such, I highly recommend progressing through the story mode, as well as grabbing side quests in order to gather these gold balls, which you get in the TV zone. Now that the game has actually been released, we can take a look at the requirements. For the previous one, where I guess it doesn't show anymore, I needed 40 of the survey data, which actually was obtainable just through playing the game, as well as the recommended side quests. However, we can see that by internet level 30, you're going to need 100 of these balls, which are right here. So complete as many of these combat missions, as well as grab these gold balls in the story quests, in order to make sure that you have about 100 of them when you finally reach adventure rank 30. Now the next tip is stamina related. Stamina, or battery charge as it's called in the game, is your main way to obtain valuable resources and provides a ton of proxy experience to level up your account level. This means that you don't want to overcap on your stamina.
On top of this, anything in the story mode, including combat and side quests, also don't cost stamina. So if you thought you'd be good draining your stamina via these gameplay modes, you will be disappointed. Instead, there are specific stamina missions where you can spend your stamina. Stamina regenerates at a rate of 1 per 6 minutes, and you get 10 account experience per 1 stamina spent. You have a maximum pool of 240 stamina, so that means it takes 24 hours to fully charge your stamina. Pretty much just log in once or twice a day to spend your stamina at the very least. And also, you want to make sure you do your dailies every day, which gives a significant amount of internet experience. And don't forget to drink your daily coffee in order to get that extra 60 stamina for even more experience. So it took me about 2 hours of gameplay total in order to reach this point in the game, which is where you can actually spend stamina. And I am a serial story skipper, so do keep that in mind. If you are a story enjoyer, it may take you a bit longer to actually reach this point. So do plan ahead in terms of if you're trying to optimize your stamina for the first day, well, I guess now it's going to be the second day. This is how long it will roughly take you. Pretty standard stuff for a gacha game, but this is still useful information to know. Speaking of stamina, for free-to-play players, I highly recommend against spending your premium currency on stamina. Time will come and you'll get more stamina by literally doing nothing, and you'll progress through the game. However, the main bottleneck of most people's accounts in the long run is the premium currency, or as it's known in this game, the film. Film is the currency that you will use to pull for the characters that you are likely playing the game for. There's also a challenge mode when you do story quests, which is extremely optional. It does make early game progression much slower as the combat takes significantly longer. However, the combat is more difficult and engaging if you enable challenge mode. If you don't choose challenge mode, you can always do the more difficult fight versions later when you have more time, which is what I personally chose to do when I played Closed Beta 3. There are some things to keep an eye out for in the overworld. You'll often see fellow agents in the streets, and if you see them, I do recommend talking to them as it builds friendship, which allows you to unlock some nifty things. As for exactly what it unlocks, well, you will be able to unlock their pause screen wallpaper, which is nice, but I haven't unlocked any yet, and perhaps more goodies await as well.
Have the time to be thorough in the overworld and to eventually visit every area at every time of the day, which is a lot of effort, but hey, you will get some rewards for it. And again, the day-night cycle will impact what events are available, so keep an eye out for that. Next, let's talk about team building. Teams in Zenless Zone Zero are super interesting, and this will take the entire community to cook up some incredible combinations. However, starting off, every character should consider their faction or element when it comes to team building, and you should generally prioritize having a character of the same faction or element on their team. As we can see with Billy, if he has someone in the same squad or element on his team, he gains a significant amount of ultimate damage. You can check your character's squad in their base stats page as well as their element and role. We can see that Billy is a physical element character who is an attacker for his role, who's part of the Cunninghairs faction. Cunninghairs consists of Nicole and Ambi, so you can pair Billy up with either of them, or put him with another physical attacker to enable his faction bonus. So yeah, keep an eye out on your character's squad or element when it comes to team building. As for team archetypes, teams will frequently consist of an attacker, a stunner, and a flexible third slot like a support character or anomaly character. So far, a very effective approach to this game is to stun the enemy first and then to unload big mega damage while they are stunned. And of course, stunners are the best for doing this, and attackers are the best for doing tons of damage. There are, of course, other team archetypes that I haven't fully explored yet, but do look promising, like teams based on anomaly and disorder, but those are discussions for another day and are very complex for a video like this. Anyway, as of making this video, I'm not entirely sure what the endgame will look like. But if I had to guess, there will be a difficult Abyss-like mode requiring 2 built teams and favoring different elements depending on the banner cycle. So yeah, typical endgame MiHoYo stuff. Also, as of release, it's hard to go too wrong with investing into, honestly, any of the characters. Although to be safe, I would focus on no more than one role of each element. For example, if you have Korn, Billy, and Nekomata who are all physical attackers, it might not be the best idea to build all 3 of them on the same account for obvious reasons. Speaking of which, Zenless Zone Zero, like most gacha games, only requires a tiny fraction of resources to level up characters at low levels. And on top of that, Zenless Zone Zero actually rewards you for hitting certain level breakpoints. As we can see, when you raise your character's level cap to 20, you get a standard banner summon, and it's pretty much for free. I highly recommend everyone to raise the level cap of every character that they get to 20 to get the standard banner pulls. In fact, in the mid-game, bringing your character up to level 30 out of 40 is likely worth the resources for a second standard banner summon. So don't worry too much about leveling a bunch of characters in the early game, as you'll still get cost-effective rewards in the form of standard pulls, at least up to level 30 out of 40. And that's the perfect segue to talk about the gacha. The gacha is where you will get new characters as well as W engines, which are equivalent to the weapons in this game. Copies of a character will provide you that character's cinema, which are equivalent to constellations and Genshin Impact. So you can get up to 7 copies of a character to get a 6th cinema character to max out their power level. There will be a standard banner with a beginner's promotion, which guarantees an S-rank agent in 50 pulls. This should be your priority in the early game, as the S-rank agent will have a strong influence on who you will focus your resources on in the longer term. The character banners will likely have a 90 pull hard pity, with soft pity starting around the 70-ish pull counter or so, and at 300 standard banner pulls, like Honkai Star Rail, you can select one of the standard banner characters, of which are Grace, Rina, Kaleda, Nekomata, Soldier 11, and Lycone. All of which are great characters, by the way. Now, I am of the mindset of slowly working towards this 300 pull goal and instead prioritizing your premium currency, aka film, on the featured character banner. Speaking of which, Ellen's banner will probably work very similarly to the way it does in Genshin Impact, where if you lose a 50-50 and get a standard character banner, you are then guaranteed to get the featured banner character next.
We'll also have the featured W engine banner, which is typically the best in-slot weapon for the featured banner character. Generally, these are significant boosts to that character's power level, however, they usually aren't the priority for free-to-play players. Now that the Bangbu channel is here, Bangbu tickets are actually quite limited. You can obtain them from the Battle Pass as well as from Hollow Zero and likely some events, so I definitely recommend staying on top of those things in order to get the most Bangbu tickets you can. However, in the early game, these Bangbus won't really have a massive impact on your gameplay experience or power level. Honestly, I do think it's a bit more optimal to actually save your Bangbu tickets until we have a better idea of what the best Bangbus are and what teams you really plan to use in the long run. But at the same time, it won't really be a huge deal either way. The nice thing about the Bangbu banner is that the rate appears to be 100% guaranteed for you to get the S-ranked Bangbu that you actually selected. Now over here, you will unlock the gadget store pretty shortly after you start playing the game. And I find it really bizarre that they have these B-rank Wenjins in the gadget store, which you can use these things, the Wenjin chips, to actually craft because these are just a complete bait.